Hello, the Pioneer viewers. I hope you're healthy and well. In a moment, I will bring you the latest developments in the Russian-Ukrainian war and our impressions of the region. According to the latest reports, the fighting between the Russian army and the Ukrainian army has intensified on the Kherson front line. If you remember, we mentioned such a possibility in one of the previous reports. This possibility is coming true today. The Kherson front line is very active. According to Ukrainian troops, seems to be getting closer to the Crimean peninsula every day. As you know, the main goal of the Ukrainian army's struggle is to recapture the Crimean peninsula. In this context, the Ukrainian troops have intensified their attacks on the Kherson front line. In order for the Ukrainian troops to the region to continue their advance, the Ukrainian army must ensure security and control on the northern fronts. In this context, the Ukrainian troops continue their attacks at many points, especially on the Zaporijya front line. So what is the latest situation on the front line? Let's analyze the developments together. As the Pioneer, we continue to convey to you the developments regarding Russia-Ukraine war in all details. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so as not to miss the daily map reports and reports on the agenda. You can also help us reach more people by liking and commenting on our videos. Let's start if you're ready. The Pioneer reports. We start our report by analyzing the latest developments on the Kherson front line. As you know, Ukrainian special forces recently carried out a very critical and sudden operation and captured the village named Poima. In recent days, artillery shelling of the Russian troops in the region has been continuing. These attacks may even be continuing at the time this report was shared. However, the Ukrainian army has a very striking strategy. The Ukrainian army is rapidly building defense fortifications in the captured areas. These fortifications ensure that the attacks of the Russian troops are quickly repelled. Some sources often claim that the Ukrainian army is advancing slowly. However, this is a completely unfair interpretations because, as we mentioned, Ukrainian troops are waiting for a while in captured areas. During this period, Ukrainian troops are building defense fortifications. Therefore, the progress of the Ukrainian army is slower than expected. However, despite this slowness, there is a very solid progress. As a result, the Russian army cannot advance in the areas captured by the Ukrainian army. According to the latest reports, the attacks of the Ukrainian army are concentrated around Poima and Pishanivka. In this region, the Ukrainian army has two targets: to reach the areas where the M14 and M17 motorway intersected, and the M14 motorway is the area where the main rocket firing systems of the Russian army are located. The M17 motorway is one of the important supply lines of the Russian troops. In this way, Ukrainian troops both want to break the pressure of the Russian artillery and cut the supply route for the Russian troops. Another point is the data islets. We know that these islets give a great disadvantage to the defense side, that is, to the Russian troops. According to the latest reports, the Ukrainian army is about to overcome these positions. There were already positions of the Ukrainian army on the Delta Islets. These positions are expanding. There is a very important crossroads in the region. Only 5 kilometers remain between these crossroads and the positions of the Ukrainian armed forces. There is also Crimean area. Ukrainian troops managed to create a bridgehead in this area. According to the latest reports, the Russian armed forces are organizing an intensive offensive to eliminate these positions of the Ukrainian army. However, as I mentioned earlier, Ukrainian forces are building a very strong defense fortifications in the captured areas. Therefore, the Russian troops have a very difficult task. Let's continue by analyzing the 10 developments on the Zaporijya front line. We start with the Robotny region. As you know, the most important success of the Ukrainian army in the counteroffensive launched in this region. Ukrainian troops have overcome the first line of the Russian army's defense fortifications. According to the latest reports, the attacks of the Ukrainian troops continue in the direction of Verbo, which is the most important section of this line. Ukrainian troops have a limited advance. Russian troops in the area are suffering heavy losses during the defensive battle. This situation strengthens the offensive of the Ukrainian army. In addition, Ukrainian artillery and Ukrainian armored units are carrying out a heavy attack on the Russian troops in the direction of Verbov. We can already say that the Ukrainian troops may make further progress in this region in the coming days. Let's talk about artillery activity in the region. According to the latest reports, Russian artillery units targeted Ukrainian positions in the Robotny and Malaya Tokmakta areas. In turn, Ukrainian artillery units targeted units of the Russian armed forces deployed in the direction of Novoprokopivka, Novopokrovka, Verbov, and Ichenko. There was not much activity in the Wuholdar sector of the Zaporijya front line. We see only the activities of artillery units. Russian artillery units continue to carry out very violent attacks, especially in the Stromoyorsk and Yorkhain region, which are under the control of the Ukrainian army. However, Ukrainian fortifications in the region are still strong. They repel the attacks of the Russian troops. In addition to Yorkhain and Stromoyorsk, Russian artillery units targeted Ukrainian positions in the direction of Makarivka, Rivnopol, and Novodarivka. Ukrainian artillery units targeted Russian positions in the direction of Priyodny, Volodny, Zavitny Bazhania, Sormelivka, and Novodonetsk. Let's continue by analyzing the latest developments on the Donetsk front line. As you know, the Ukrainian army is fighting a major defense war in this region. In fact, the Avdiivka region on the Donetsk front line has started to be called Bakhmut II, because Russian troops in the region cannot advance despite all their efforts. Especially in the region, it is quite remarkable that Russian troops cannot advance despite the attacks with air and artillery support. This situation shows that the Ukrainian army is quite strong. Although the Russian army has a high attack capacity, we see that its effect is quite low. According to the latest reports, the Ukrainian armed forces advanced behind the line of pounds northeast of Pervomaiskoye. Here, the Ukrainian troops had destroyed defense lines. Russian sources considered these defense lines to be disadvantaged for the Ukrainian army. However, Ukrainian troops turned the disadvantage into an advantage by advancing in this area. However, Russian troops are also making limited advances. According to the latest reports, Russian troops have consolidated their positions in the area southeast of Stepnoe and have expanded their control over the railway lines near this village. However, the Russian army has suffered considerable casualties in these attacks. From this point of view, I don't think that further advance of the Russian troops is possible. What do you think? What do you think will happen on the Kherson front line in the coming days? Do you think the Ukrainian attacks in the region will continue? What do you think will happen on the Donetsk front line? How do you assess Russian losses in the region? Let me know in the comments. I read and care about all your comments.